Jason, if you had unlimited funds, and maybe not unlimited, but if you could spend as much as you needed to have your ideal tech setup using current tech, stuff that's available right now today, what would that look like? Now, just think about that. I don't want you to answer that question, but I am super curious about your answer, and I've been thinking about it as well. For those of you that are watching or listening, if that's an intriguing question for you, then welcome to the Gadgets for Families Tech Show, where you get two grandpas that each week had to walk uphill both ways in the snow in July to bring you amazing tech content. I'm your host, Greg Cunningham.
And I'm your host, Jay Benjamin. Thank you for joining us today on this episode. I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
It'll be a fun conversation, but I will tell everyone right now that Jason has changed his computing setup, waiting for iPads. We'll talk about iPad rumors later in the show, but so we really don't know how this is going to turn out from an audio standpoint. So
a little frustrated.
It'll be the best we can make it.
A little frustrated this morning, but yeah, we're going to give you the best show we can. So right off the bat, though, I know my audio sounds a little weird. And like we said from the start, our audio is never going to be as perfect as studio quality, but this week is going to be particularly pretty bad. So just bear with us.
Yep. Now, we're going to get a little bit geeky, and I don't know that we're going to have a post show. So we're going to talk about someone we follow in the industry and how they created a combination iPad MacBook. And we'll talk a little bit about how it was done, but that is really geeky. So if you really want to get into it, then I'll put the article in the show notes, and he's talked about it on a couple of his podcasts. Mm-hmm. But then that changed how he works. And that led me to the question, okay, how would I really like to work? If I could use what exists today, what would my ideal computing environment be like? And that's going to be the bulk of our discussion. That, and then the question of, what would we like to see to improve that ideal computing environment that doesn't actually exist today? So after that, we'll briefly cover the new OS drops because they dropped everything and an interesting rumor on iPads. And so no plans for a post show, but we'll let you know as we wrap up the episode today if something comes up for post show that's post show worthy.
Yeah, it might be something we want to talk about more that we just don't want to go into too much detail in the main show, but we'll see.
Yep. Now, before we do that, don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, drop us a comment on the video. Again, we're trying to get us to the point where we're happy with the video that we have. We're not there. And we probably won't be until we get some computing environment stabilized and figure out a couple of audio things that even with Jason's old computing environment, our audio wasn't quite the way we wanted it to be. But it is what it is. We do this show. We enjoy doing it. The other choice is to not do it. So,
and for the few folks that listen, weekly, we really appreciate it. So we're still working on it. We'll get it there.
Yep. All right. Let's just dive right in and talk about this. So this comes from Federico Vitici. Now, Federico, for a long, long time, was an iPad first, and he was doing everything he could to not have to work on a Mac. Even to the point where he had a computing setup for podcast recording and all that kind of stuff, more complicated than Jason's. And was able to do all of his podcasting and stuff. But little by little, he's moved back to using the Mac because it's just easier, right? I mean, there's certain things that he had to force in his workflow that didn't do that. And so he also got a Vision Pro. Mm-hmm. And really, this started off with him trying to find the ideal Vision Pro input system. So keyboard and trackpad to go along with the Vision Pro, because the online stuff or the virtual keyboard is just garbage on the Vision Pro. So
that was a complaint from everyone when we watched reviews. I believe it was in every video how unusable that keyboard is.
Yeah. And they said it's improved in 1.1, but can't imagine it improved enough. It's just you can't tell what you're typing, right? I mean, it reminds me of, remember those old red laser keyboards that used to project down
Right.
on
Just
the
project on the
desk?
desktop. Yep.
Yeah, no bueno. So, um, anyway, we'll put this link in there, but that he started down a rabbit hole. He found another YouTube video about someone that was able to make a mod on a MacBook Air, and it just took him down this
Hmm.
rabbit hole. And honestly, no one in their right mind should do this, but I'm so glad that he did. So,
Right.
what he did is he took an M2 MacBook Air. This is his only Mac, right? He's probably got some hanging around in a drawer somewhere, but this is the Mac that he
Yeah.
uses to work on. And he removed the screen. So he went, took it apart, took the screen off the hinges, and made it spoof the system so it still believes that it's got a display attached to it, right?
Right.
So now his MacBook is just basically the keyboard and the trackpad. And it's funny because when he was talking about this, if he goes into the settings, when it's turned on, it assumes that that built in display is still attached,
Right.
which is hilarious, right?
Really weird. I figured, Apple's hardware would detect something disconnected, just for an error message. They're saying, hey, there's a problem with the monitor or something like that. But I guess since it's a laptop, they wouldn't assume people would be taking the monitor off. So
Yeah.
there's no system built into it. So really cool the
Now,
way this the way.
I didn't watch the video on how to do this because, again, this wasn't his video on how to get it done. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they're connecting something to something else and making it seem like it's physically connected, because there are ways that they could probably do that. But anyway, so now he's just got keyboard and trackpad, which, by the way, I use my MacBook keyboard. I prefer that over all other keyboards. So this sounds really, really great to me. And then after that, everything else he is using is built in Apple stuff. Okay, so he's got Sidecar, which is the ability to use your iPad as a second monitor
Mhm.
on your Mac. So you can see how that is. So he's got Sidecar set up so that his iPad, and he actually has two iPads, so he could do this with either one. He tested it with both. He prefers the
Mhm.
11-inch, but it becomes the monitor for his Mac. So it's almost acting like a Mac Mini, right? Like a headless Mac where it just has
Right.
to have a screen. Now, the one thing about that is with Sidecar, generally you're supposed to start the connection between your MacBook and your iPad from the Mac. And so he has a shortcut that was started by somebody else that he's gone in and modified that actually allows him to start that Sidecar session from the iPad. So essentially now he's got a shortcut that acts as an app to launch his Mac
Right.
on his iPad, which is super duper cool.
Which probably would work most of the time. And he has a workaround for times when he has to do a restart, a system restart, or an update or something like that that kind of breaks that original connection. I thought that was a pretty cool workaround he did, where he set the Mac to be able to um, allow VNC connection, like a remote
Right.
connection from the login screen. So it
Yep.
was a trade off. He had to eliminate some security features to do that, but really cool to be able to allow that remote connection just to allow himself the Mac to boot up and then use Sidecar to to connect to it. So yeah, really cool workaround. That was pretty
Yeah.
smart. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah. So again, this is all built-in stuff. There's no
Yeah.
hacking. He hasn't hacked the operating system. He isn't downloading some sketchy app. He's using Sidecar, which is a built-in feature that goes along with continuity and the ecosystem that we
Mhm.
talked about a couple of episodes ago. He's using a shortcut to initiate the connection, and then he's using VNC, which is that virtual connection capability, which has been around forever, and he just had to change a couple of settings on his Mac. So again, this is all built-in Mac stuff, except for the fact that he removed his He
Yeah,
just moved the
the
monitor
monitor.
on his M2 MacBook Air. So, well, what this does is this allows him to use the keyboard and trackpad. He put magnets on his iPad case and magnets on the bottom of the MacBook so that he can just basically magnet his iPad where the screen used to be when he wants to do that. So he
Right.
can do that. He can press that shortcut to start Sidecar, and his Mac screen is up and running. Now, the cool part is then he can use Mac OS and iPad OS at the same time because he can use slide over. He had to turn off Stage Manager on his iPad, but then
Yeah.
he can use slide over to pull in messages, or music is the other example. Some of those apps that make more sense to use on the iPad
Right.
versus the Mac versions are just simpler and easy access. Plus, it doesn't clutter up his Mac screen with extra stuff.
So he's using one of the, we talked about this before on the show, one of the built-in multitasking features on the iPad, which is slide over, to basically use Mac OS and iPad OS at the same time.
Yes.
Which, thinking about it, I mean, what's more powerful than using two OSs at the same time? You know what I mean? Like you use the apps that work better on the iPad, and the apps that work better on the Mac. I mean, it
Yep.
doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Now, remember, this whole thing started with him wanting a better keyboard and trackpad for Vision
Only.
OS,
That's all he
right?
wanted, right? He went
That's
down the
all he
rabbit hole
wanted.
like me, trying different keyboards and different things to try to make his iPad OS experience more comfortable, and ended up with a dual operating system device.
Well, this was for Vision OS. He wanted this for Vision OS, but
Right, right.
now he's got Mac OS, Vision OS, and iPad OS that can all be run off of the same keyboard and trackpad.
Yeah.
So when he's working in the Mac, if he wants to use universal control, another built-in Apple feature, on his iPad, he's got his Mac set so that anytime he swipes off the left of the Mac screen, then it automatically enables universal control. And now the keyboard and trackpad are fully functional on his iPad.
Right.
And for Vision OS, when he's connected to that exact same Mac, right? When he's connected to that exact same Mac, that's a built in. As soon as if you've got Vision OS app up and running and you've got your Mac OS screen up in Vision OS, your mouse will automatically jump when you go over to the Vision OS app, right?
Right.
And so I see this. He could have his iPad in those magnets with the iPad stuff that he prefers.
Mm-hmm.
He could have his Mac screen giant in front of him in Vision OS now,
Mm-hmm.
and he could have Vision OS apps up on the side, and he's just using the same keyboard and mouse to move between all of them.
Right. So basically, he has Apple's most powerful keyboard. I mean, that's really, basically what it is. And I'm with you. Like you said, you use your Mac, and I have my MacBook Air. And even though I've tried a ton of keyboards with my iPad, there is no better keyboard than what's on that MacBook Air. There's no
Yeah.
comfortable typing, even using the trackpad. There's nothing better than the Mac Air and the Mac Pro too. It is a good one. I just don't have as much experience with the Mac Pro, but yeah. So he has the world's best and most comfortable keyboard, and he's dual wielding three operating systems on it. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
He could put on his Vision OS. He can
Or
put that
tribal.
on the Vision Pro, right? He can put that on, keep it dialed out so he's not completely immersive, and he can still look down and see his iPad screen if he needs to.
Yeah.
He can, I mean, most of those iPad apps will probably run in Vision OS, but for any of them that the developers have said, no, I don't want my iPad version running in Vision OS. Now he's got the iPad version there. He's got his Mac screen there. He's got his Vision OS screen. And
Mhm.
so what really blows my mind about this is the flexibility, right? To be able to work on the things he wants to work on the device he wants
Mhm.
to work on when he wants to, right? All at the same time. And so that's what led me to the first question that I wanted us to dive into today. So, but before I do that, Jason, you've got an old MacBook Air. Now,
Right.
I don't think it's capable of running universal control and
Yeah, no solid
sidecar and
platform.
some
Yeah,
of those kinds of things. But if it was, would you be tempted to try this?
I would. I would. Now, the thing is, I don't like the way it looks. Right? It looks. I would if I were to go down this road, I would find a better method of attaching it. Right? I'm thinking of. So you remember the old? I want to say it was the Bridge keyboard, which he mentioned he tried. So yeah, and it
Yeah,
kind of had the two hinges there. You kind of docked it
slid
in
it
those
down
two.
in.
So I'm thinking something more of that route
Yeah.
than those magnets. Those magnets really look terrible and it looks hacky. Right? Still a really awesome idea. But yeah, I would be tempted to go down that road with an old MacBook that I'm not, using.
So he did this on his primary computing
Yeah,
device, right?
yeah.
And I
I
think
don't think
that's
I could do
crazy.
that.
I got thinking, I wonder if I could find an especially now that the M3 MacBook Airs are out, but I wonder if we could find an M1
Right,
MacBook Air because it will run the latest OS, right? I wonder if we could find one at a reasonable price, but I'm not going to do it. I mean, we've got too much coming up, and I would want to have the Vision Pro first.
right.
But anyway, so that's what it led me to. So this is super cool. I'd love to have something like this. I'd love the flexibility of this. And now that leads us into these two questions. Number one, if you could spend the funds you needed to have the tech setup that would be ideal for you, what would it be? And then the follow up question after that is going to be, what do you want in the future to improve that ideal setup? All right, so here's the parameters for the exercise, Jason. You can spend the funds, put aside Jason being frugal. You can
Yeah.
spend the funds to have your ideal tech setup with what is available today. Now, I'm going to caveat my stuff. I'm in flux between being in an office,
Hmm.
a room that's dedicated as an office, right, to working out of a 200 square foot trailer that I also happen to live in. That's probably going to be my summer. For sure, that's my summer,
Right.
right? I mean, what happens in the fall is still kind of up in the air. So I'm going to bake some of that in when I share my answer to both of these questions. What would I want with today? And then what do I need in the future? So that's going to be my caveat. Jason, any caveats that you want to put in here before we dive in?
No, I'm gonna do mine. Of course, I would love to be on a cruise ship working somewhere, but no, I'm gonna do mine straightforward, just basically, right here in the home.
Okay. All right. So remember, you can spend the money. So forget that side, but it
Hmm.
has to be available today. Okay.
Right.
Don't mix that up with what you want in the future because I think that's going to be fun too. All right, so we're going to start with the first category, which is the backbone of everything. None of this stuff matters without this first one, and that's internet service.
Right.
Jay, you're up.
So that would be the easiest one for me. There is one level above the level that we have now. So we have what they call gig speed internet. Of course, that's the catch thing. But they don't guarantee us that gigabyte of speed unless we're at that max tier, right? And we still, I run speed tests, pretty regularly here, and we're pulling down between 700 and 900 sometimes, right? So it's faster than anything we've had, and it's just under a gig. But to get that guaranteed, where you're getting 1,000 and above, there's one level up that we would need to go. So I would max out at that max level.
Okay. And what about equipment inside the house?
So I would definitely go with the mesh system that we've been talking about, and probably that one that you sent, the TP Link one, that was like $1,200 per unit. Crazy fast, and way overkill, way more than I need now, and that I would probably need in the future. But yeah, so a mesh system unit in every room. I would do the cool hanging down from the ceiling like I have my Alexa in every corner in every room. And don't get me wrong, I know these things cover a pretty large area, but if money's not an object, why not have everyone have the fastest connection in every room here in the home? So,
Well, you don't want them to overlap too much because sometimes if they're too close together,
oh, they
then
cause
they
interference with.
they can
Okay,
cause interference. But it's real easy. You buy as many as you think you need. You
okay,
start placing them, and when the app tells you you've got too much, you just stop and return the ones that you
okay.
don't need, right?
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
app
So
will
I would
tell
do
you
that.
that.
Yeah, so I would do that. So definitely inside mesh system inside, fastest tier, which is the next tier up, for the internet service, and yeah, yeah, that would get us going.
All right. So here at home, I've got gig. Great.
Right.
I would get the newest Eros, and I would have hardwired here into my office with one of the newest Eros. Because right
Okay.
now it's a wireless repeater, and it's just not as. I mean, I
Yeah.
can get 150, 160, versus when I plug in um, downstairs. When I plug
Hmm.
directly into the main one, it's 700, 800, 900, or a full
Yeah.
gig, right? So for remote, if I think about living in the trailer, I would have multiples. So I would have T-Mobile home, I would have my Verizon hotspot, and I would have Starlink. I would have all
Yeah.
of the above and have them serve different purposes and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And I think right now Starlink is, I know it's still fairly new, but I hear more people loving it than complaining about it.
yeah,
So yeah.
yep. It's just expensive.
Right.
So yeah, and unlike most, it really is unlimited. Same thing with T-Mobile. Most of
Hmm.
the others, if you hit like a terabyte or something, they're going to start throttling you, or if there's congestion. Even Starlink says if there's congestion that the RV versions get deprioritized compared to the home
Right.
versions and stuff like that, but I've never heard people having issues with it. So all right, that's internet. Computer.
So surprisingly, I know you're probably expecting me to say all in on iPad and just work my whole ecosystem around that, but I wouldn't. I would go with a fully spec'd out Mac Mini, and
Okay.
that's always been an ideal setup for me. I just get most of everything done with my iPad, right? But
Not a Mac Studio?
yeah, no, not a studio, not none of that. Just the
Okay.
fully spec'd out Mac Mini. Um, Probably do like a headless version, but we'll get into that later when we're talking about
Yeah.
our future stuff. But um, as of now, I would have it here on the desktop, uh, with yeah, fully spec'd out. Don't have to worry about any you know bottlenecks with processing and things like that. And then, of course, whatever version of the latest iPad that's out would be my main, go-to device, my daily driver. But yeah, fully spec'd out Mac Mini would be the way to go. I did see. Did you see Marcus Brownlee and I forget the podcast he does with those other guys? They were talking about the price of the old cheese grater MacBook Pro, and he was like, hey, the video was about. It was a short. It was about the trading value for it because they lowered the price down to like $900 or something like that. Don't know why they're still selling it. You know what I mean? They've had a
Yeah.
couple of versions out since then, but they're still selling it. So anybody that has one, we're like, how? What do you think the trading value would be? It's zero. They'll offer to recycle it for you if you bring it
Yeah.
in. So you paid $2,700 or more, $4,500 for it a couple of years ago, a few years ago. They'll recycle it for you now. So, but no, not even a Mac Pro that I would deal with. I did think about trying to find one of those older versions, but it doesn't make any sense to be on anything but Apple Silicon right now. So no Intel, none of those older processors. It just doesn't make any sense to purchase right now. So, but that's it for my computer needs. What about you, Greg?
So I would go with
Okay.
again, assuming that I'm going to be, because I don't like to sit at my desk, right? So even when I'm home here, I want the MacBook Pro. Now, I could consider a spec'd out, even in the trailer, I could potentially consider that, right? The only problem is when you don't have power in the trailer, then the Mac doesn't have power
Right.
either, right? And so I think the MacBook makes the most sense. But the reason I would want that is for when we're doing editing and stuff like that. That machine would only be for my podcasting
Yeah.
and YouTubing. That's pretty much it. So that would be my computer. Again, I have all the funds I need to do this, so I can do that the way I want, right? So
Hmm.
I'd probably max out the MacBook Pro Max, right? The one that costs like $6,000 or something like that,
Right. Right. It
and
was up
just call
there.
it good. And then for me, I'd have an iPad for every situation. So I'd have the 12.9, which would become my main machine, right? The machine I use the most for all my personal stuff, for all my study, for all my writing, for my consulting work. All of those kinds of things would be done um, through that iPad. And because that iPad, I have really good internet set up,
Hmm.
then I could VNC, use the VNC clients to get
Right.
to the MacBook if I needed to. I would have the 11-inch iPad Pro for media consumption, right? For when I
Hmm.
just want to sit and watch a video or something like that. And then I would have, of course, my beloved iPad mini for all my reading and
Of
that kind of
course.
stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, my setup's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mine can get there, but yeah, yours is definitely way more than even with money not being an object, I still wouldn't get. Well, I'm not saying more than I need because definitely uh, a spec'd out Mac Mini is way more than I need. But yeah, I still would find a way to do most of what I do on the
Right.
equipment that I have. So between the Mac Mini and the iPad,
Yeah.
also um, you've always loved the portability of the Mini and like you said, you would have the uh, the 10-inch iPad for viewing videos and stuff like that. I just like to do everything on the big screen, the 12.9 or 13-inch or whatever they call it this time around. But I just
Now,
like to do everything on that.
but here's the problem, Jay. Do you really think I should take a 12.9-inch iPad into my tub?
No, I don't think you should take the mini into if history has told us anything, you shouldn't be taking that thing either. So
Apple Care for all the things, right? No, but I'm thinking like this campground that we're going to for Easter. I watched on my phone. I watched the pilot of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters in the hot tub at the campground. So
right,
same
right.
thing. I don't want the 12.9 in that, but I could prop the 11-inch right up on the side and watch
Yeah,
a show like that. So no, that's the thing is the 11-inch becomes the least needed and the most disposable,
yeah,
right? Because I'll do all my reading and stuff on the mini, and then I have the 12.9, which is my workhorse.
yeah,
So, yeah. So, anyway, so yeah, that's why I would want an iPad for every situation. All right. Phone. I think this one's might be easiest one for you, but I might have a little twist on this one.
yeah. So this one was easy for me because I told you like a couple of months ago, and even now, if I wanted the 15, I would get it. Right. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about starting to film some Vision Pro content and stuff, and I'm like, it's just not worth spending that extra just for that one feature, right? The camera being the camera and being able to film in that content for the Vision Pro. If money wasn't an object, then it would be time, right? I think about getting it, but do I really have time now to even start recording content and stuff like that? So even if money was not an issue, I probably would still be on the 14 Pro Max. Now I probably would get a bigger, maybe the terabyte, bigger capacity. But no, my Gold 14 Pro Max, they would have to come out. The 16 would have to look a lot better than it does now to get me to move. So yeah, I would still be on the 14 Pro Max. Bigger
I
capacity, but yeah,
I don't think so. I think you just upgrade every year. I think it would just be because you wouldn't have to worry about handing it down,
right.
right? I think you would just upgrade every
Yeah,
year.
maybe. I think I do talk myself out of it a lot, but I don't have time to record now. Maybe in the future I would, but yeah, I just don't like those rounded edges. And I know you love it. I know you say the back it feels great in your hands, but I don't know. You remember my favorite iPhone of all time is the 4 and 4S, right? Those
Right.
square edges, the round body, the glass in the back. And this just seems like a bigger version of that. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, maybe.
Well, so for me, I would just upgrade every year. I'd have the
Right,
latest iPhone every year, just be a thing. But I would not have the Max as my phone. I'll explain where the Max fits in my life later, but I would
right.
not have the Max as my phone. I'd probably have the regular Pro, the regular size
Right.
Pro.
So I know you mentioned before that even in the fall when we upgrade in September or so, whenever they come out, you were thinking about going down from the Pro.
Yeah.
But that was
The
because we were expecting a better Mac Mini. I mean,
yeah.
iPad Mini.
Well, the camera is the holdout there. I'll explain that one in a minute. But yeah, I'd probably just go with the Pro size. If the camera
Okay.
is the only difference, then I think I can figure out how to go with just the Pro size.
Okay.
All right, monitors. You have a link in here.
Yeah. So this is LG. So I always wanted one of those ultra wide monitors,
Oh
right?
wow.
And it seems like every year, you know, TV manufacturers and monitor manufacturers, they're always going for thinner and thinner and thinner, lighter and lighter, and of course higher quality, right? But it seems like there's a certain game that these monitor competitors are running that these ultra wide monitors are getting wider and wider and wider. So they have the horizontal game as well as the vertical game that they're playing towards, but this is a 49-inch ultra wide, 4K monitor, and man, HDR, it looks amazing. Um, Pretty pricey at about $1,100, I think it was. I think I saw it on Amazon for about $900. Pretty pricey monitor, but this would be all that I would need, right? No more dual monitors, no more having to deal with adapters and all of that to display multiple monitors. This one monitor with all of the windows you need across is what I want and what I need. With my iPad right underneath, yes, yep, that's all I need. So uh, maybe you know if again the money wasn't the object here, I would still dual monitor, but it'll be two of these ultra wide, right? And then they have some that curve too, where you could almost do like a curved not 360, but from
Yeah.
your whole point of view, whatever degree that is, maybe that, but definitely just one ultra wide monitor.
All right. Well, mine's easy. I would do
Yeah.
the Vision Pro. I don't want a monitor. So,
Yeah.
and it isn't just about being in the trailer, but even here, I'd prefer not to have the monitors. So, and the monitor on the MacBooks is so much better
Yeah.
than what I have right now. So, yeah, for me, it would just be the Vision Pro.
Yeah, that
Uh,
that one seems pretty easy, and we talked about that being, when we talked about just being mobile. Period. You know what I mean? We talked about the tech nomads and camping and just traveling. Period. Which they kind of show in their promotional work for the trailers and stuff. Like they had the guy in the hotel taking the meeting or taking his Zoom meeting, or not Zoom meeting, but his FaceTime meeting and things like that. People talking about using it on trains and planes and stuff like that. So it's definitely an ultra portable. It's designed to be portable.
yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense to have that.
Yep. All right. So we don't run super long. Jason, rattle off your list of accessories for me.
So of course the Apple Watch, which I'm watchless today, as you can see. You can even see my tan. That tells you how much I wear my watch. So
So
um,
you took that in. I thought they were fixing it.
yeah, pretty frustrating about that. You mentioned Apple Care for everything earlier. So how about in the post show I go on my little rant about
Okay.
my
So we will
experience?
have a post show. We'll rant about that. Jason
Yeah.
went to the Apple store, and I'll bet he didn't do the Vision Pro if it didn't go well. So,
No, I left pretty upset. I left pretty angry. So I
all right.
on the way out I told the lady, hey, just cancel that appointment. So
All right.
um,
Post show. All
yeah.
right. So, latest Apple Watch. What else you got?
Yeah, so the latest Apple Watch, and I would jump on those ones that were like the Ultra 2. You know what I mean? I would just go with whatever latest version of the Ultra that's uh that's there. Um, my USB-C hub that I mentioned getting, so I have my price range for it, which is pretty low compared to some of the super spec'd out ones. Um, so I would definitely be in that $400 to $500 range, which puts that in not just a USB-C hub, but this is more like a desktop hub, right? This is more of like a professional environment where it powers the monitor and well, it drives the monitor and stuff. Of course, it's powered from the power outlet, but it drives the monitors, multiple microphones, multiple USB-C, USB-A, USB, mini USB, micro USB. It has all of the ports on it, right? Um, I would definitely be using one of those. My microphone, of course, I thought was one of the best, but you can tell by the issues we've had and compatibility and quality, it's not. I don't know what the best microphone is. I looked at many lists, and this one was always at the top of those lists. So maybe I'm doing something wrong with it. Maybe it's just that compatibility with the iPad, right? Because remember when we recorded originally, it sounded great, and
Yeah.
then what was the update? Oh, 17. When we updated, we did the betas, and it never came back to sounding quite like it
Yeah.
did in those
Yeah.
original ones. So it was something with that latest update. Um, of course, we're hoping for multiple um, input channels with the new iPad. Maybe we'll have to wait for WWDC, but a good external camera, or fingers crossed, the ability to use continuity cam with the iPhone on the iPad
Yeah.
with iOS. Um, I'm hoping for that. Um, some lighting, not really nothing major because again, my studio is the corner of my bedroom. So some lighting like you sent Wendy when we were looking for a gift idea, something to connect to the monitor, something that can sit right here on the top, kind of give me some better lighting. Um, and That's about it. Yeah. So even again, like we keep saying, money wasn't a factor. I still have to consider that, um, my space limitations and stuff like that. So yeah, the lighting would be something simple, some clipped on, not anything cheap, but um, oh, you did send me a microphone that was well out of my price range.
Mm-hmm.
That the Shui mic, it's a lapel microphone. I would test something like that out.
Yeah.
That was a good one. But yeah, not really much I would change as far as accessories go with my current setup. You know
Right.
what I mean? Now future setup, there's some things that I would like, but we'll get to that later. But how about you?
Yeah. I mean, iPhone and Apple Watch upgrade every single year. That's
Yes.
just a no brainer to me, unless there's something really wonky about them.
Hmm.
I would want the highest end portable, so probably a lapel style
Yes.
mic that I can do. I mean, if I think about um, most of the RV YouTubers, that's what they're using, and even some of the. I find it amazing that the mountain bikers I follow use those lapel mics, and it's
Okay.
still amazing.
Even with the wind and stuff, it still
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah.
Okay.
And this is where the latest iPhone Pro Max comes in. That would be my camera. Because
Hmm.
again, remember, I've got a MacBook, and yeah, hopefully continuity camera with the iPad would be awesome. So that would be my camera.
Right.
And then for listening devices, I do want, again, money not being a concern, I would want way more comfortable, better versions of these AirPods Pro Max on top of my AirPods Pro, which I still continue to use. So I guess that one, I shouldn't have brought that one up. I would still use these AirPods Pro Max. That one will have to go to my future. So the AirPods Pro and the AirPods Pro Max, those would be my
Yeah.
headphones of choice. So all right, you put one in the other category. Go ahead and talk us through this one.
So I see this trend with YouTubers now. A lot of them have these standing desks and just custom built desks that they kind of work in now. Only when they're showing off their setup, because if they're filming or recording, they're you're only seeing the point of view. You're not seeing the desk. This is just something to help them out. So something to make recording and just working period more comfortable. Right. My setup now is pretty light. I think I explained it before. I started making the when we were going to show our setups off. I was making a short, but then I had to start recording on the iPad and changed everything up, and now it's just kind of a raggedy, like temporary kind of setup. And I'm like, well, there's no need to show that off, but something that will make recording and stuff um, a lot simpler, right? The being able to have access to the ports and stuff I need. My microphone is not at risk of banging into the camera, and everything is so compact. So um, something custom built, maybe not a standing desk, but something tall, right? I like to
Hmm.
sit in like a bar stool or something like that, or stand if I had to stand or if I wanted to stand, um, because I do stand most of the day. It feels comfortable standing, and I guess since I've changed my career change and being on my feet most of the day, when I sit in a desk chair, I feel like it's lower to the ground. I didn't grow. I didn't get taller. I guarantee you it's not that. I didn't grow, but it just feels so low to the ground to me now because I rarely sit in like a desk or an office chair. I'm usually standing most of the day, so um, I do want something taller, something higher. Maybe one of those desks. Have you seen those desks where you can adjust the height to
Hmm.
go up and down? So something like that. One of those, like either those custom type desks or something built custom for for podcasting and working and things like that. So a custom built desk would be a must for me.
All right.
So I know you mentioned before you would rather have two setups, right? You would rather have one in your same office, one over in the corner for your MacBook and then a setup for your iPad. Would that include like some custom furniture or some custom desk or something like that? Or
I mean, I've got my grandpa's desk that I
right?
think is where I would work. I might do a little bit with it, but I would, if we were going to stay here, I think I would want to do something
Yeah,
in the corner of the office here for the um, this. Right now, it's actually a small kitchen table that
yeah,
I've got, and I actually need that much space considering all the crap that I put on here and multiple stands to raise, monitors up and all this
yeah.
kind of stuff. So yeah, I would probably
So
want to do something with that.
but let's before we move on though, let's talk about this because you would need something basically like what I have now, something super portable, right? And if you're in a trailer or if you guys like we mentioned you having a home base or something, but you still need to go in between. So rather than having, well, you would have, I guess you, if well, again we're saying money's not an object, you would have one in each location. But what
Yeah,
would that entail though? Because I know
I
you
don't.
could just throw everything on a park bench now or a picnic table now and be able to work. But let's say you come out and there's a family eating breakfast at the picnic table at the campground. You can't be like, hey, I got to film my iPad, my podcast, guys. You have to slide over. So what do you do in those cases?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of portable. They're call them portable desks, and they're
Hmm.
basically uh, metal with some rubber in them, sitting on a tripod kind of thing. And so
Okay.
I've got a couple of those that I can use for stuff. Whatever next trailer we get would actually have a little bit better setup where I could be a little isolated when I
Right.
needed to be. So that's a bigger deal. If money was no object, I'd buy the ideal trailer. I already know which one I would buy, but that would
Right.
be 30x the amount of all this other equipment we've talked about. So
Yeah. The equipment would just be details, right?
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
trailer is the main thing.
yep. So So yeah, so nah, I mean, I'm just so in flux right now. I don't know that I would do anything with that. And again, that's why I
Yeah.
want the Vision Pro. That's why I want the MacBook, is so that it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yep. All right, let's go through. Jason, take us through. So you talked about what you would want. What are some things
Mhm.
that you would like to see in the near future, Apple, anybody else, to allow you to enhance that setup you just talked about?
Right. So wireless everything. You know what I mean? I want to eliminate wires. I have wires just hanging down. Like, look, I grab this wire. These are just hanging, like right here on the monitor and on the poles, and I have just wires just dangling, just hanging everywhere. So wireless everything, and that's including the connection to the monitor, right? So, and I know there's wireless HDMI and stuff like that, but I guess what I really want is like AirPlay mirroring built into the monitor. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Something like that. No lag, no delay, and input, but um, just something like that. A wireless connection, even if it's through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or something like that. Well, I don't think Bluetooth can support any video, but
No, but I mean,
um,
you can do that today on a TV, but it's not the best, right?
right, right.
And it
It's not the
drains
best.
the battery like there's no tomorrow.
Yes. So something again, not we're talking about the future. So
Right.
something not in its current state, but some improved version of AirPlay mirroring where you come in, you set your iPad, or even if you don't want your iPad, you have it across the room, your iPhone, a MacBook, and just mirror it to your monitor without having to plug anything in. So the next thing I want is some kind of Apple built remote desktop architecture, right? Not necessarily um, VNC or RDP as it is now, but if Apple's going to do it, they're going to do it. That's going to work the best with their system. So, and again, we're talking future nonsense, right? I don't know exactly what I want, but I do know I want something like Batici created, right? I want to be able to remote into Mac Mini, Mac Pro, MacBook Air, whatever it is I have, and almost have like a custom connection to it, right? Where I
Yeah.
can use the iPad apps that I want to use and use the power of the MacBook or the Mac Mini that I'm using, but still in like a customized way, right? Where it makes sense to do certain tasks on the iPad and offload some of the heavy lifting to the Mac Mini or the Mac Pro or whatever. So not just remoting into the desktop, I guess is not what I'm saying. Even though I put here remote desktop, something more than that, right? So basically, I guess like to be able to use not anything rigged, not anything hacked together, but be able to use my iPad as the monitor for the Mac Mini, without any kind of hardware modifications or um, they talk about like when you use the Mac Mini without a monitor, because you can use the Mac Mini, but you have to have like a dummy HDMI, right? It needs something plugged to that port to be able
Yeah.
to do that. And yeah, so something custom built, but from Apple, not anything hacky or having to, you know, remote into the MacBook just to get it to boot up. Even though that's something that I would do, it doesn't sound too cumbersome the way he has it set up, but you know, something that at a click of a button that just power it on and go. And the last thing I wanted was for Apple to expand because we're just on the W1 chip now, but W2, W3, um, to expand the functionality and the licensing for that W1 chip, right? And I don't know if this is something Apple would do because this is Apple Silicon. They're going to put it in their devices. They want it in their devices. But what this chip is when when you open your AirPods and it pops up on the screen like, "Hey, you want to connect to these AirPods?" Once you're connected to it, that's it. It connects to your Apple TV, your MacBook, your iPad, your iPhone, and it switches in between. I want to see them license that out to other equipment, right? That way, again, going back to my whole wireless everything, yes, this is wireless technology, but just for Apple devices. But can you imagine sitting down at your desk and it's saying, "Hey, I see you're close to your Blue Yeti microphone. I see. Oh, and not just mics, but webcams too. You know what I mean? You power on the webcam. It says, "Hey, I see that your webcam is on." Um, USB hubs, not having to connect that, even though that would be the fastest, most stable connection would be wired. But if there's a wireless hub too, it says, "Hey, I see you're near your hub," and you can have a focus mode when you sit down at the desk. It sees the camera, the microphone, and the hub, and says, "Hey, this guy's ready to work," all wirelessly. You know what I mean? All without
Yeah.
having to go through settings and stuff like that. So some expanded functionality with that W chip and some licensing, would be nice to third party uh, manufacturers and stuff. So that's future for me. I do see you say you have MagSafe everywhere on your list, and that would be high on my list too. Is something that I want is MagSafe. But what about you? What's future Greg looking forward to?
Yeah, MagSafe everything, even my MacBook. Let me just drop my MacBook
Yeah,
somewhere on a desk that I've got a pad that'll start to charge it, but
yeah,
way better battery life on
yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, power is king when you're out and about. Stable gig wireless internet, and stable and gig together. Because I
Hmm.
think you can get fast wireless internet, but it's not always as stable
Yeah.
as we would want it to be. Um, I don't. I mean, yeah, we could do the Apple built remote desktop architecture, but I just rather they virtualize Mac OS. Give me a virtual Mac OS environment that I can get to
Yeah.
from my iPad and not have to worry about the other hardware. If that were the case and it was powerful enough, and my iPad were powerful enough, I'd probably eliminate the MacBook right
Hmm.
out of my stack. I want the foldable iPad Mini. Um, that would mean I only need that instead of the mini and the 11-inch.
Right.
So that would be fantabulous. Or fold the phone and allow the phone to fold out to the size of an iPad mini, because then I only need one of those two
Right.
devices. So this one I've been wanting for a very, very long time. I wish they would just buy Shocks, or that Shocks would license the W1 um, chip
Yeah.
for bone conduction headphones. They're so close with the speakers on the Vision Pro. It's not bone conduction, it really is just blowing it down into your ears, but it's so close. But
Hmm.
I love my bone conduction stuff, but I don't like not having the ability to speak to invoke Siri, nor the auto pairing across to everything, right? That I want that in those. And they actually have some new ones that aren't the full thing behind your neck. They just go over your ears, which would be awesome too.
Okay.
So
Way more
just,
comfortable.
yeah, just
Are they
buy
both
Shocks.
independent, or are they connected somehow? They're
Nope,
they're
they're
both
both
independent.
independent.
Okay.
Yeah. So just buy Shocks or let them license the chip and
Yeah.
go from there. I mean, they're not super cheap. They're about 100, and the pro versions are probably 150, $170.
Okay.
I'd pay another $50 easy
Yeah.
to have them have the Apple chip inside them.
Yeah.
So, and then my last one is not the Vision Pro, but the Apple glasses, right? To let me put Vision OS in these glasses that I have on my face right now,
Hmm.
and or the ability to just display my centralized computing hub, my phone or whatever, anywhere, right? We've talked about that in the past. So that one's super wish listy for me. I mean, I would dedicate a wall in the trailer to
Yeah.
display stuff if I could. But so yeah,
Yeah.
those are my ideal stuff. Now I know maybe some of those aren't terribly creative, but boy, would that sure make my computing life easier.
Right. Right. So if we're talking about the future, if I can put on my head wrap, like, remember the old Johnny Carson bit where he used to read the.
Yeah.
That's probably our listeners are probably like, who is Johnny Carson? That's old school, old school. But we're talking way down the future. What do you think about this? So 2035, Tim Cook, or no, Tim Cook will probably be gone by then. 2035, 36, whoever's in charge, they come out and say, we want to introduce Apple OS, right? Not Mac OS, not iPad OS. And what this is a unified operating system. And basically, no matter what device you're looking at, it's I forget what they call that, but remember the whole website thing where no matter what screen you're looking at the website, it gave you a version of that website that's easily consumable on that screen. So if you're looking at it on the phone, you have the mobile version. Desktop, it was a desktop version. So what
Yeah.
about an operating system? We'll call it Apple OS. That if you looked at it on the phone, it was a phone mobile version of that was easily consumable on that phone. The tablet was a little bit bigger version because by then phones will be just as powerful as those MacBooks that used to run whatever operating system, right? They're already
Right.
powerful enough to run a desktop operating system. Then when you look at it on the the MacBook or desktop, it was the same operating system for all, right? We're just calling it Apple OS. And depending on the screen you're viewing it on, you'll still have all of the features set, right? You just have to manipulate different things. You have to do it differently on the phone. So if we're looking way in the future, wouldn't an operating system like that be what we need? You put on your glasses, your Vision OS glasses, or your glasses that you're wearing now. Same operating system, just viewed differently.
Yeah.
Um,
Same
yeah,
power. I mean, today, right, they're very, very similar. And everybody
right,
has said that when you use Vision OS, it feels like iPad OS because that's
right,
what it's based on. So
yeah,
you've got a lot of similarities. But I think what you're talking about is all of the functionality is the same. All of
yes,
the features are the same. Yes, I may use finger gestures on Vision OS and touch gestures on iPad and iPhone versions, not those OSs, right? But the iPhone or the iPad. And on
yeah,
Mac, I may use keyboard and touchpad, but everything else is really the same and it just scales. I think that's what you're talking about, which
yeah,
means
yeah,
all of
something,
our apps would have to be universally compatible across
yeah,
all of those devices. And so something like a multi-stream audio or a multi-stream video with multiple cameras plugged in,
yeah,
everything would have to be able to support all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be fantastic. I'd even take it if I had. Yeah, no, I think that's ideal. I was thinking, okay, what about that central computing device? Do you just plug it into or set it
including that
beside?
with the central computing device. Yep,
Yeah, and then
you're
it
just
just
viewing it on
you
the
have to
screen.
plug it into some sort of a display or connect it, not plug it in, but connect it to some sort of a display, whether that be phone size, tablet size, Vision OS or Vision Pro or MacBook.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's I mean, maybe 10 years, 11 years, maybe a little more time than that, but I can see something like that.
Yeah.
Unified operating system for all devices, and Microsoft will have their version. Of course, Google will have their version, um, but still powerful enough to run on some of these devices because the iPhone is, spec wise, it is just as powerful as some desktop computers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
Laptop computers, but iOS is still limited to a phone operating system. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So what if there was a desktop, a more powerful version? So maybe we ought to trademark Apple OS and
Yeah. I just Apple
license
OS.
it to Apple.
Jason designs Apple's future. So Apple, if you want to get in touch with Jason, just drop a comment in one of the videos, and we'll make
Yeah,
sure you have
yeah.
his contact information.
Tim,
So
just I know you're listening, Tim. Just get with me.
yep.
But don't listen to the post show because I'm really upset with you guys.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the post show, but let me just run through the current event stuff. All the new OSs dropped last week, and I'm going to do this in 30 seconds. So for iOS, we got a bunch of new emoji. There's some upgraded iMessage security. Apple Podcast transcripts, which everybody is saying actually seem to be really, really good. So
Hmm.
they're doing a good job with the AI behind the scenes there. Everybody's giving Apple crap about not coming out with an AI product, but then they do things like this, which is all AI driven, and they're doing it pretty well. So Apple Cash virtual card number. So if you store up a whole bunch of Apple Cash and you don't want to transfer it to bank, now you can actually go get a virtual card number to where you could use it online. So acts
Okay,
just like
cool.
a credit card. So that's cool. Stolen device security, you can turn this on for all locations instead of familiar locations. So you could say, I don't care if I'm at home, still make me wait or use Face ID. So we talked about that before. iPad OS got a really big feature, the wah, wah, wah feature. It didn't get anything on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Mac OS got a minor Safari change. Watch OS didn't get anything major. Vision OS got MDM support. Interesting. So corporations can manage the 2 Vision OS devices that they purchased.
Mm-hmm.
You can now reset your device if you forget your password without having to take it into AppleCare.
Nice. We knew that
Updates
was
to
coming.
updates to personas that they say are really good. iMessage key contact verification. This is so that you can make sure who you're talking to is who they say they are, that somebody's not done a man in the middle. And then improved resolution on Mac OS display. I've heard a
Mm-hmm.
bunch that it's gotten much, much, much better. So there's your OS updates. And then I just want to throw this out there, since we were thinking maybe we might get a press announcement for iPads this week. Maybe it'll be next week. But there's a rumor out there that there is a new version of iPad OS 17.4 that they're prepping for end of month to support the new iPads. Now, I would love, Jason, to get my hopes up and say they're going to announce some really, really cool new features.
Yeah. Not to
Nah,
WWDC.
probably not, right? So
So,
we'll let you know the
dude, I
iPads.
said that the last time. I want to get my
Yeah.
hopes up. I want day one to be able to use those multiple devices, right? I want a webcam. But I'm pretty sure that that's going to be held out till
Yeah.
WWDC.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll keep you updated on that, especially now that Jason has traded in his iPad, which is
No more
gone. So
iPad.
he doesn't have an iPad at the moment. So
I
uh,
feel naked, by the way.
yeah, I'll bet. So stick with us. Now, hopefully they don't announce them the first week of April, because we're not recording a show that week because I'm going to
Yeah.
be on vacation. It's my turn. So, but other than that, we'll definitely bring you the latest as soon as they announce the iPads and this new version of iOS. So,
Yeah.
all right, that's it for today. Thank you for sticking with us. This was fun, right? Just to kind of throw out there what we'd like to see, what we'd like to have in our computing environments, and to tie
Right.
that back to Federico's MacPad. If you're interested at all in what he did, check out the show notes, and we'll have the link to that there. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and then stick around for the post show, because I was expecting some cool stuff to come out of Jason's visit to the Apple Store yesterday, but it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like it was hot garbage. So
Yeah.
we'll cover that in the after show. And Jason, you know what we're doing next week, or any cool podcast closing or video closing for us?
No update for next week. It'll be a surprise for you guys. So hopefully some clearer ideas about what's hardware wise what we're going to be doing, but no show set in stone yet.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for sticking with the Gadgets for Families Tech Show, and stick around for the post show if you want to hear Jason go off on Apple.
Yeah. Thanks guys. See you next week.